I'd like to thank everybody for the comments on yesterday's video. I'd like to thank you all for the views. I know the views are small compared to people on TikTok, but for me, it was a good day and I appreciate it. There's a lot of comments in there asking a lot of questions about how come the reactions in the market on the currencies, on the interest rates and everything are not what they think they should be happening. And this is what I would say to you. Remember something. Policies can have short-term, medium, and long-term effects, okay? And we can discuss them over a period of time because that's what we're here to discuss today. Remember something about the central banks. 99% of what they do is boring accounting. That's it. They're not doing anything. Billions of transactions are being done. They have to make sure all that works. But 1% of the time, they're like firemen, right? There's a fire somewhere in the financial system. The central banks jump on their fire engines and they race to the scene. And the first thing they have to ascertain is this a 1 alarm, 2 alarm, 3, 4, 5 alarm fire. What is it? And then ascertain what the problem that is causing this fire so that they can come up with a solution. The solution is normally a liquidity event, okay? And so these firemen take out their hose and they spray the issue with liquidity, money, all right? Now, the money can come at you a million different ways. It could be like BTFP where you could send this, all your stuff that was marked to market at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, we give you 100 cents, liquidity. To save the situation from the Silicon Valley Bank, okay? So, when you look, this is why I say, if you follow me, is that what we want to understand is what is the facility that they set up, so then we can ascertain what is the problem that they ascertain. Not what you and I think the problem is, what they think the problem is, okay? So this is how I look at the news items that we got, the data points that we got yesterday. So, if you're the central bank, the first thing you ask yourself is, what is the problem we're trying to solve for? I would argue that the big sovereign countries, all their long-term bonds, 30-year bonds, are rising up in yield. And I think that we all can admit that Japan is leading the way, the canary in the coal mine scenario, okay? So if you're the central banks, the first thing you want to effectuate is Japan, because they're probably figuring if we can control Japan, it gives us a better chance of controlling everybody else. So think of the things they did, all right? So first, they said we're gonna stop our tapering, okay? So in other words, QE is still gonna be almost in full force. They're gonna cut it down, but right now, they're not gonna be tapering. Then second, which gave us the biggest clue, was the BOJ said that you can come to us for dollars against your pooled collateral. So what does that tell us? Listen, pooled collateral is another way of saying, give us all your crap. We'll put it all together and we'll give you a higher release rate. What's the release rate? If you're borrowing against U.S. Treasuries, you can get 99.5% release, okay? If you're borrowing against some BBB bond, you might get a 30% release. So what they're just saying to the insurers and the bank, put your stuff together, and instead of giving you a 40% release, we'll give you an 80% release. Now, why do they do this? Because they want them to get the dollars to turn around and buy the yen, buy the yen and then buy the JGBs. They have to make it worth their while or they're not going to do it, all right? Then UDA comes out and says, I'm not gonna raise the interest rates. Again, think of this, taking the pressure off of the long bond. I'm not raising the interest rates at this time. And I agree with them, that's what's happening. So if you look at what they're doing everything they can to control the Japanese long end. They can somehow get that to start trending down, then they can turn around and go into the rest of the currencies. So that's what I think is going on. I definitely think there's a facility between the Fed and the BOJ to give them dollars so they can go buy their bonds. Now that's on one side of the coin. Why don't we talk about the other side of the coin? Because things are going on all over the world, fascinating as can be. So let's look at the Swiss franc. Now you can see the Swiss franc here raced up against the dollar, and I'll show you where right from Liberation Day, okay? So one, everyone's buying the Swiss franc as much as they can. The yield on the 10-year Swiss franc is 31 basis points. That's it. And it's moving down. It's not going up, it's moving down. And you can see here where Liberation Day hit, the Swiss franc took off, and the blue line is the euro. All right, now notice that the Swiss franc is up 11.88%. Remember that one, okay? Because look what's going on in Switzerland. The Swiss inflation rate turned negative for the first time in 4 years. So this is since COVID, okay? So now they've turned negative on their inflation rate on the first time in 4 years. So here in the second paragraph, they say right off the bat that the annual inflation rate is now negative 0.1%, negative, all right? And everyone's betting that they're gonna go to sub-zero on their interest rates, and soon. And this is all because it's now a haven currency given Trump's trade war. Now the inflation goes down because the currency is going up so much. So when your currency goes up this much, when you buy imports, it costs you a heck of a lot less money. So much less that inflation is actually negative now in Switzerland, and deflation is on the table. And I just want to say, as an aside, if you look at it, inflation or deflation, which one do we rather have? Okay, just my personal opinion, we want inflation, all right? So if they state here, the SNB does not want deflation, especially with the Swiss franc appreciating, which could make it worse with the price fall. And so thereby, the SNB may be forced to intervene in the market to drive down the Swiss franc. Unfortunately, the White House will go crazy because we've accused them of being a currency manipulator, and then we want them to raise their currency. And on the Swiss, by the way, the last time I read, I think we think they're undervalued by 25 to 30%. So if you remember yesterday with the Japanese, what did we say? That they're in a very delicate situation? Well, look what the guy says here. This is a very delicate situation they are in. You want to be perceived as a currency manipulator while you have these trade talks with the U.S. So the path of the franc is crucial, even seen through the pass-through of the recent price-through of consumer prices. So what does this mean? All right, look, we have two different currencies on the exact opposite spectrum, all right? Because remember with the Japanese yen, they have 3.6% inflation. They have a negative interest rate complex. And the guy came out and said, I'm not going to raise the interest rates at this time. Not because why would that, he doesn't want to do that. It would kill the economy. Same thing going on here in Switzerland. The higher that this goes up, yes, they get deflation, but it also makes all their exports come unbelievably non-competitive. And if they intervene on the currency, the U.S. is going to go nuts on them, all right? And if you think that this one being Switzerland's a little thing and Japan's the big thing, trust me, both of them have implications for the global markets, all right? Now, here's the last thing I want to say. Our dollar is down like 9.89%. And look at the Swiss francs up 11.88, right? So do you remember that? They went up 11.88, and it's causing deflation in Switzerland. So my question to everybody is this. If we're down 10%, even if we were overvalued as a currency, even if we remain overvalued as a currency, does that mean we're on the opposite side where we are now going to start experiencing inflation because of the dollar going down, right? If you're having deflation on one side, we're going to have inflation on the other side. Tell me what you think in the comments, and like and follow.